When it comes to new Pokemon games and a new generation, one of the things that every Pokemon fan eagerly looks forward to are the new Pokemon. Now, of course, besides regional influences, we basically have no idea how these new Pokemon will be, or how many of them we'll be getting. But there are certain categories of Pokemon that have appeared and more than likely will appear for every generation. For example, starter Pokemon. Even if the Galar starters weren't revealed to us during the first Sword and Shield trailer, we'd know that we'd be getting a trio of grass, fire, and water Pokemon that we'd pick between to start off our new journey. Likewise, there are a few other categories of Pokemon that we can quickly go over that we can expect to see in Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield. Now, for the sake of this video, and because I love the design so much, I'm going to be using Fakemon from Pokemon Sage to show off what the new Pokemon may be like. But chances are that they won't look anything similar to the Pokemon we get. I may have showed these guys off as a starter Pokemon, but obviously, they're very different Pokemon compared to the starters that we really got. But despite that, they still represent the category of starter Pokemon perfectly. Also, after we're done talking about all the guaranteed Pokemon for Sword and Shield, I'll quickly go over some categories of Pokemon that could possibly make it into the games, and that everyone wants to see in the games, but aren't exactly guaranteed for the games. So, with all the explanations out of the way, let's get started with the video. Regional Bird Pokemon. Every generation has its regional bird. Some are more famous than others, and some are pretty forgotten. But regardless of how you feel about them, you'll be sure to see the new one along Route 1. Ever since Staraptor, the regional bird has had a small unique quirk to differentiate itself from the others. And even though Turkistador and its family aren't the regional bird of Pokemon Sage, I think they'd be perfect for the group. Ground Flying is a fantastic typing, currently only unique to Landorus and the Gliscor family. And it's a cool turkey! Who wouldn't want a turkey as the regional bird? Regional Rodent Pokemon. If you're gonna have the regional bird, then you can't forget about the rodent. Just like the regional birds, the rodents have become a lot more memorable since Bibarel. Some of them have become stronger and seen in important trainer battles, and others have just become memes. I know we already have a raccoon Pokemon, but with Lookoon, we'd take out two birds with one stone, cause we'd have a normal ghost regional rodent. Not only does this give us a unique typing for a Pokemon, which automatically makes Lookoon memorable, but it also gives a strong typing to a Pokemon with a weaker base stat total, balancing out the typing for the Pokemon. And besides, people have been dying to see this typing. Regional Bug Pokemon. The early game bug types were always heavily looked down upon. That was until Generation 5. Leavanny and Scolipede were some great Pokemon. Vivillon had a unique mechanic behind it, and Vikavolt was just cool. Mainly because of its design, but its typing and battle capabilities were just as great. But I think it'd be really cool to have our first ever Bug and Dragon type Pokemon as our early game bug type with Base Select. Just imagine, you know an early bug is coming your way, but you have no idea what it's going to evolve into, only to find out that it turns into the type that everyone wanted Flygon to be. It would be such a great reaction from the community, and considering that fairy types exist now, it'd just be fun to finally have an early game Dragon type Pokemon. The Pikachu clone. If we're honest, the Pikachu clones, for the most part, have actually been pretty memorable. Either they were used to help introduce a certain new mechanic to the games, or they've had a unique typing of sorts to separate them from the rest. Not sure what Pachirisu really has going on, besides being Don's Pokemon, but I'm sure a bunch of you in the comments would say otherwise. Pokemon Sage doesn't really have much of a Pikachu clone. The closest Pokemon I found to it was Kawadi. I actually really like Kawadi's design, but if you ask me, it's just not small enough to be a Pikachu clone and doesn't have the appropriate facial features. But it's a great design regardless. Chances are that whatever Pikachu clone we get next will have somewhat of a unique dual typing, as that seems to be the trend among the last three Pikachu clones. Let's just hope that it isn't our first and only electric and fighting type Pokemon. Gimmick Pokemon. You could also call this Pokemon with a unique mechanic, but every generation we get at least one new Pokemon that probably sucks in battle and will be really forgettable, but it's always remembered because of some weird gimmick that it has. Like, Shuckle can make berry juice, and Kecleon can go invisible and block your way. And honestly, there's no way to predict this. Game Freak can add whatever gimmick they want to whatever kind of Pokemon they want. But from Pokemon Sage, I'd like to use Vippy as an example, and personally give it a unique mechanic. Vippy seems like a pretty bland Pokemon at first, similar to Castform. But just like Castform, under certain conditions, it'll change forms and its battle style. And what better conditions than terrains? Terrains have been a very prominent feature of Pokemon battles as of late, and it'd be cool to see a Pokemon change according to the terrain, similar to how Castform does with weather. Again, Game Freak could do anything, but I think a terrain gimmick Pokemon will be on its way soon. Pokemon with different forms. You could just pair this up with gimmick Pokemon, but in my eyes, these are two separate things. But since they're similar, I won't take up too much time with this category. Since Generation 3, we have consistently been getting Pokemon that have unique forms. And if you count Alola forms, and we end up getting Galar forms for Generation 2, then we got Pokemon that have different forms from every generation. It may be a legendary Pokemon, but I just had to show off Quasar and its two forms. They're both fantastic, and legendary or not, I hope Game Freak can give us different forms for a Pokemon that are this good. Counterpart Pokemon. Usually, these Pokemon are version-exclusive Pokemon, but that's not always the case. Counterpart Pokemon are usually two different families of Pokemon that come in pairs. They might come in a pair because they're similar, because they have a similar typing to one another, because they're enemies with one another, and a variety of different reasons. But usually, it's not too hard to tell which Pokemon are part of counterpart pairs, especially since they're near each other in the Pokedex. Here, we have Burr Owl and Mag Owl, two owl Pokemon that aren't flying types, but rather pure ground and pure psychic respectively. The reason I really like this pair is because of their designs and typings. They look similar, but they're also pretty different and unique from one another. A great pair of Pokemon if you ask me. Pseudo-Legendary Pokemon. For most pseudos, we just received various Dragon-type Pokemon, but there have been a few exceptions to this. Also, I know a few Pokemon are often mistaken to be pseudos, but the best way to recognize pseudos are to remember that they always have a 3-stage evolutionary line, and their base stat total is 600 when they're fully evolved. Hoenn was also the only time where we received 2 pseudo-legendary Pokemon, instead of 1. And unless we get a good number of Pokemon, I can't see that happening again. Although, I would love for it to happen. I would also love for us to get a non-dragon pseudo, but chances are, that won't happen either. Diamond is an example of what a physically defensive rock and dragon type pseudo can be like, and Montezuma is an example of what a non-dragon pseudo can be like. It's a pure fighting type Pokemon, but I think dark and fighting can work as well. Pseudos always end up as some of the fan favorites of the generation, so Game Freak can get as crazy as they want with these Pokemon, as long as they put some of their best work into them. A legendary trio. After the first 2 generations of Pokemon, it started to look like we were going to get multiple legendary trios with every generation. But with the 6th and 7th generations, our only legendary trios were the mascot legendaries of those games. And while chances are that whatever legendary trio we get will in fact be the mascot legendary trio, we have had a mascot legendary duo with Ho-Oh and Lugia. But irrespective of whether there are mascots or not, we're more than likely going to get a trio of legendary Pokemon. Pokemon Sage has their own legendary golems to show, which are all primary steel type. I'm not sure if we get another legendary trio that are kinda similar to the Reggies just yet, but I can see a steel focused legendary trio cause, you know, Sword and Shield. We also have the 3 legendary spirits, which are all really cool ghost type Pokemon, and we haven't really had a feminine legendary trio of Pokemon yet, so I'd be really excited to see something like this as well. Mythical Pokemon. For our final Pokemon category that's guaranteed to be in Sword and Shield, we have Mythical Pokemon. These are special legendary Pokemon that are so incredibly rare that we have to call them Mythical Pokemon and use real-world methods to obtain them. At one point, it was real-world methods and some in-game storyline. But Game Freak has decided to make things easy for us for no apparent reason and give us God and all his companions through the use of Wi-Fi. See, the melt and melt metal thing was kinda cool, but it was really tedious. Definitely refreshing though, and a step forward in the right direction. And I hope that Game Freak can make these Pokemon relevant to the story as well. For examples, we have Xochi and Zotac. Now, we're pretty much only guaranteed one new mythical Pokemon, but Game Freak likes to have a mythical for every year till the next generation of Pokemon. So if we go by the pattern, and Generation 9 comes out in 2022, then we'll probably have 3 mythicals. 3 mythicals that are completely unrelated to each other. I know there's only 2 Pokemon on screen, and that they are related to each other, but they're the best examples of what I think could be mythical Pokemon from Pokemon Sage. So I wanted to show them off. That's all for the Pokemon that we're guaranteed to be getting in Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield. But like I said, we have a few more categories of Pokemon to go over that have a good chance of making it into Sword and Shield. Fossil Pokemon. Besides Generation 2 and 7, we've always received fossil Pokemon. And judging by all the caves and ancient references that we've been getting, I wouldn't be surprised if we take a trip back to the past with new fossil Pokemon. Annoying Cave Pokemon. I know Zubat is the primary culprit here, but there have been a few others that have recently joined the scene as well. So, don't be surprised if there's another annoying Pokemon that you keep running into in the Galar Caves. Basic Fish Pokemon. So pretty much every generation, besides Generation 6, has had one of these. Kalos does have Clauncher and Skrelp, but they're not exactly the kind of fish I'm referring to here. So they kind of disrupt the pattern, but that's the only real instance of it. Trade Evolution Pokemon. Did you know that we had trade evolutions for every generation except Generation 7? I don't know if this is Game Freak saying no more trade evolutions, or if it's just them saying that the bond between people and Pokemon is too strong to trade in Alola. So, it's up for debate whether we'll see new trade evolutions in Galar or not. Baby Pokemon. We haven't had these in quite a while, since Generation 4 actually, but they're adorable and an easy way to fill out the Pokedex by making prior forms of existing Pokemon. If for whatever reason Galar has a focus on breeding, then we'll probably get to see them again. New evolutions of existing Pokemon. Okay, almost everyone wants this to happen, but I think Game Freak have talked about how they don't want to make new final forms for existing Pokemon families, so we may be out of luck. However, the last time this happened was quite recently in Generation 6, although that was an evolution. I already made a video talking about these that you can check out right here, but I'm definitely expecting us to get at least 1, if not 3 new evolutions. We get them every even number generation, and as we're in Generation 8, chances are we'll get them again. Regional variants and Mega Evolution. I wouldn't count these as new Pokemon per se, so I didn't want to include them on this list, but just to make sure I covered all the grounds, I did. Despite that though, I'm really hoping that we get to see a lot more of both of these. Legendary Duo. I was very surprised to learn that we haven't had a Legendary Duo since the 4th generation. I could have sworn that we had one in the 5th generation, but no. For 3 generations now, we haven't gotten any. But still, it's very possible for us to receive a Legendary Duo in these new games. Legendary Quartet. With the additions of the Tapus, we've gotten 2 Legendary Quartets in the history of Pokemon, with the only other being the Swords of Justice. It's only happened twice, so it's not that likely, but it's still possible to see a new one. Ultrabeast. I don't like Ultrabeasts, but I think it'd be incredibly dumb to not see any new ones in these games. I know they're sorta exclusive to the lore of Alola, but still, they became such a major part of the franchise that Game Freak pretty much has to include them in Sword and Shield. And who knows, maybe we'll get to explore more Ultra Worlds this time as well. And with that, those are all of the Pokemon that are pretty much guaranteed and that we're very likely to see in Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield. Funny thing is, even though we know that these Pokemon always appear generation after generation, I think they still manage to be some of the most anticipated Pokemon of this season, which is quite impressive on Game Freak's part. Of course, we will be getting a bunch of new unexpected Pokemon from Game Freak as well, so don't think that Game Freak has revealed all their secrets just yet. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, then be sure to hit a bunch of like button. If you didn't, hit the dislike button. Let me know how you feel. Comment down below your thoughts and opinions of the video. What category of Pokemon are you most excited to see return in Pokemon Sword and Shield? And did I miss a category at all? What new category of Pokemon do you want to see in these games? Let me know. share the video around if you want to help with the channel, and finally, subscribe and hit the love bell icon if you want to stay up to date with all my content. Take care of yourselves, have a wonderful day, and I will see you on the next video, alright? Later.